I'm an impact manager in the Faculty of Health at the University of Sheffield. The reason I thought about this project was there was an opening for participatory research funding at the university. And I was really interested in patient-public involvement from the Faculty of Health's perspective. I was interested in how researchers undertook that, what the expectations and experiences of the people within that research, sort of externally to the university, thought about that process. I was aware of good practice and bad practice and pockets of both, and so I was really interested to look at that. Once I started having discussions with people around the university, I contacted a previous colleague, Rachael, who is an impact specialist in the Centre for Care, and we've worked together on many projects in the past, and her ethos and ideas around engagement really chime with mine. So I started talking to her about the project and the idea. We then got introduced to Kate Fryer, who works with the Deep End panel, and a member of staff at the Research Design Service actually, who are really involved in patient-public involvement. And the four of us kind of got together and started talking about the project and realised quite quickly it was much bigger than just the kind of patient-public involvement. It was much more about community engagement in the widest sense possible.
I'm Rachael Black and I'm the impact specialist in the Centre for Care. The Centre for Care is a funded research centre that looks at issues around social care, so the care workforce, the use of technology in care, the experience of people in receipt of care and support. And the role that I have as impact specialist is about how do we ensure that the research that we're doing makes a difference in the world. And what's quite nice about the centre is that I've been employed sort of right at the beginning, so that we can be thinking about how our partners and the people that we work with are shaping the work that we're doing so that it increases the chances of there being an impact. It increases the chance of it making a difference because it aligns to what they need and require from the research. So I've known Sarah for a long time. We've worked together in various ways, and Sarah approached me with an idea that she had about applying to a participatory research fund, looking at sort of the experience of people engaged in health research and the involvement with patients and the public around that work. So we had several conversations about it and we started to think about it, but what's really interesting is that Sarah is based in the Faculty of Medicine, Dentistry and Health. I'm based in the Faculty of Social Sciences. So we sort of brought together those different experiences, and that helped us to kind of broaden out what we were thinking about around engagement in its sort of broadest sense. What's really nice about working with Sarah is that we both have this kind of real passion and drive that things could be done differently, and it could be done better, and it could be done in a way that feels more meaningful for the people that we work with and less tokenistic. And I think we both sort of really hate that feeling that that's how the research or the engagement is going. And so we were very keen that this should result in something that was different and that we could work within the university and with our partners to make a change in the way that we worked kind of externally and outwardly facing from the university.
So Rachael and I devised the project, applied for funding and was successful, and then started to think about not only the Deep End panel, but what other groups were out there that we might want to work with. And Kate helped us link with many different groups in Sheffield, which is how we met Rosa from the Roma community and David from SACMA and Action Collective, and we started to organise meetings just to talk to them about their experiences of research, what they'd been involved in, where things had gone well, where things hadn't gone well, what were the issues they felt. We talked about remuneration and what did that mean. We talked about ethics, we talked about power, we talked about community, we talked about lots of different aspects of engagement in its widest sense, and then after that thought about what we could do in terms of outputs, what those groups actually wanted, which ended up being a couple of films, and we've decided on a podcast series as well, which this all links to. Really just to kind of open up the options for people to engage with the work that we've done and how we can get the message across of what we've learnt. And I'm also involved in the Participatory Research Network at the university, so bringing my research and Rachael's sort of findings to that organisation and that group now, and really broadening out our experiences in the university.
So Sarah and I worked with different community connectors, so we spoke to people who kind of very kindly and really sort of valuably linked us with different communities and helped us to have and facilitate these conversations. And sometimes that involved really lovely food as well, which is always a benefit. The food we had at SACMA was just the most delicious food, and it's such a great day out. So we kind of worked with people who helped to link us up. But we were very conscious of and really did not want to make the same mistakes that people were telling us got made, which is that we got the information we needed and then we left. So we were very keen to think about what came next, and that wasn't just our decision, it was based on what the community groups that we were working with told us was important. And so a couple of things that came up was the idea of making a film, but that it should be real people in the film, not an animation, not something that's kind of false in some way, but actually it represents people and it shows people within the community and within their spaces. And we also wanted to think about something that belonged to the groups. So it wasn't just like a university output for university use, but it was something that people could use in their own communications and in their own sort of work that they did. So that resulted in 2 films being made, one with the Deep End panel and one with SACMA, which has been really nice to hear about the way that they've used those films. So they're on their websites, they've used them at different kind of events that they've run, so that's been great to hear. And then alongside the films, we worked on a series of podcasts, and again, we were very keen that these podcasts should be kind of by communities for communities, or that they should be a conversation that has that sort of real representation of different types of experience, so that the podcast also had value for the communities, and they were about how communities can push back, can get what they need out of these experiences, can ask the questions that mean that the research feels mutually beneficial. So we've done 7 podcasts, I think, then, that mainly involved researchers and community members or community connectors. Some of them just involved sort of people who worked in organisations. I'm thinking about one with Chili Pep that had 2 people from Chili Pep there. And we've had one that also included the ESRC, the Economic and Social Research Council, which is a funder, because we wanted to understand from them, what do they expect around engagement? It's become a real funding priority as well, but when they're assessing applications, what do they expect to see from researchers? What kind of work do they expect those researchers to have already have done and be planning to do? So the podcasts are going to sit together in a kind of suite of resources that will go alongside the films and go on the Participatory Research Network and possibly the University of Sheffield website as well. But we'll also be sort of handed back to the groups who've been involved in them, so that they can also be using that in their work that they're doing, so they can maybe share it with other researchers that approach them and say, this is what we struggle with, this is what we want to do better this time. So we're hoping that they will be a really sort of useful output across the board, really. They'll help researchers think about what they're doing, they'll help us in our conversations with the university more widely, and they'll help community groups to think about what their role is in this and how it can feel more beneficial, more useful for them. We don't want this to be the end of the conversation. What's been really great with working with the groups is that they've highlighted to us things that work, but also things that really don't. And so there's still work to be done here. And so, Sarah and I are really keen that we continue to take these conversations forward in different sort of settings and meetings that we're in, both within our own work, but also kind of in communicating with the universities and people that we're working with more widely. So in my role, I work a lot with people with lived experience, and this has given me an awful lot to think about in the ways that I'm communicating with that group and the way that I'm keeping them updated about what we're doing and the way that their work is having an impact on the work of the centre. So it's definitely had sort of individual learning for me, and also we want to kind of keep those conversations going. We've found sort of good networks of people who are also interested in this, so I think what's been really useful about this process as well is that it's introduced us to people within the university who want to see these changes that we do, so that's helping us to kind of get a sort of a gang of us and a network of us who can keep these conversations going and keep pushing this forward. And also it's helped us to get to know different groups locally and nationally, and it's seeded some sort of further projects as well. So on one of our podcasts, we brought together somebody based here in Sheffield who works for an organisation called Unity Gym, and Toby, who works for Street Factory in Plymouth and who runs Street Factory in Plymouth, and they're now thinking about ways that they can work together, join up, share learning. So we'd really sort of love to see this project make a difference and also spark other conversations. The sort of shared experiences and the overlap of experiences, I think, suggest that there are shared frustrations here, and there are also kind of shared sort of aspirations and ambitions, and it would be great that this project could kind of help us to pull together some of those people who are really keen to kind of further this work and create new collaborations.
It's become evident from a funder perspective, external to the university, that involvement and community group involvement, patient involvement is on the rise in terms of its importance in all sorts of research grants and research awareness. But I think just for the greater good of what we should be doing, the whole ethos of the university, especially our university as being a civic university, and for me that's where the passion lies and that's what we should be doing. So I think, as I say, start of a conversation. I'm working with the Participatory Research Network and other like-minded researchers in the university and professional services staff around how we can really improve the situation around research and access to communities. What does that mean? We're having conversations with members of the institution around processes and infrastructure and how we can maybe help move that along in a slightly different way and make processes easier, to really widen that engagement to the best possible engagement we can. I am utilising what I've learned in helping researchers think about engagement. So I already thought I kind of knew how to engage, but actually what I have learned is lots of different methods of engagement, lots of different opinions and thoughts around that, lots of different ways in terms of what we think is right but what might not be right. So I'm helping researchers think about that when they're writing their grant applications, when they're actually going through the process of undertaking this involvement. I'm really keen to look at the way the institution collaborates with organisations, which I think I've talked about in other areas, that 50 requests to one organisation is not sustainable, but how we manage that I don't know yet. Certainly Rachel and I do not have all the answers, but I think having the conversations and taking this forward with a passion and drive that we both have is where I'm starting. Rachel and I really just want to say thank you as well to everybody who's been involved in our project, from the like-minded researchers, people at the institution who've supported us and helped us, our community groups that we've spoken to, our amazing filmmakers Rosa and Maria, and really anybody that has followed us on our journey and is interested and supportive of the work we do next.
Always really sort of blown away by how generous people are with their time and their insights, and we know that people have had these conversations before. We can't pretend that we're the first people to ask the questions, and yet people continue to engage with us and continue to share what they know, and I think that's really we just really do value that, and that's why we don't want this to be the end of the conversation, because we want to recognise and honour the fact that people have shared this with us, and we want to kind of do something with it. So yeah, we really do value and appreciate that time and that patience that people share with us to keep talking to us and keep having these conversations. And yeah, we just really do want to really thank them and really appreciate it.